Well, folks, there were classified documents from Joe's tenure as vice president found in a closet in his private office at the Penn Biden Center. And you'll be just plumb shocked to know that Joe doesn't seem to remember how they got there.
I was briefed about this discovery and surprised to learn that there were any government records that were taken there to that office.
He was just plumb surprised. Golly gee, go figure, no freaking duh. Joe has classified documents in a closet. Hillary had a private server in a bathroom, and yet it was Donald Trump that was aggressively raided by the FBI. That's some real convenient national security work right there, folks. So let me guess what happens next. Nothing. Biden forgot, the media will forget, and there will be zero accountability or repercussions because, as we well know by now, that's how liberal privilege works. Joining now to break it down and weigh in some more hot topics fresh out of the swamp is senior digital strategist Greg Price. All right, Greg, so I want to start out with some expert analysis from a group of top-level experts and get your take on the other side. Let's play it.
There are differences in what happened.
Yes, but the optics are not good.
Well, we all know that Trump is a liar and a thief. We know that. So it's not that big a jump to say that he obstructed and he lied. We don't think that Biden is a liar and a thief, so we give him the benefit of the doubt. That's partly what's going on. But what I think also is going on, no matter what the truth of it is, Whoopi, they will spin it. Bubblehead and Marjorie Taylor and that crowd, Matt Gaetz, you think they're not going to spin this, that it's just as bad as Trump? And so the lie gets out there, people believe it, just like that Donaldson person, whatever his name is.
Byron.
What's his name?
Byron
Donald.
Greg, there's just so much there that I'd love to go over. We always have wonderful nuggets given to us by Joy Behar, but I want to start with her whole premise of, Trump is a liar and a thief. So if he does something, it's automatically bad, it's criminal. But if Biden does it, well, he just forgot. So we give him the benefit of the doubt. Do you give him the benefit of the doubt, Greg?
Yeah, my go-to analysis for legal advice over the keeping of classified documents is definitely Joy Behar. I mean, that comment is just like the epitome of liberal NPC brain behavior right there. Like it's hilarious to watch. But no, Joe Biden does not deserve the benefit of the doubt, and let me tell you why. When it came to the documents Donald Trump took to Mar-a-Lago, he was in an ongoing dispute with the National Archives over whether these documents were considered to be classified or not. Because presidents, unlike vice presidents, are constitutionally able to declassify and classify anything they want. So this was the dispute Trump was in with the National Archives, who then, for reasons we still don't know, filed a criminal referral to the DOJ. Obviously, we don't know any of the details about what documents Trump has. We don't know the details of why the FBI decided to raid, because as we remember, the affidavit was heavily redacted. But when it comes to the documents found in Joe Biden's personal office at the Penn Biden Center, Joe Biden, those are documents from when Joe Biden was vice president. Unlike Donald Trump, who was president, vice presidents are not able to declassify and declassify anything they'd like to. So therefore, no, Joe Biden does not deserve the benefit of the doubt, but they're going to give it to him anyway because, these people aren't hypocrites. They've built a system where they can do whatever they want while everybody else is subjected to the minutia of the legal code.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. And again, he gets to play that card. I don't remember. I don't recall. And we believe him because we know that he doesn't remember and he doesn't recall. I mean, that is truthful, but it still doesn't make it acceptable. And we know that this is all going to be swept under the rug. Nobody is going to give a crap about it because it's Joe Biden. He gets away with whatever. But I still wonder, we've got the House Republicans now that are doing a whole lot of things. Even in week one, last week was kind of a bye week because of the mess. But in week one, they're doing a lot of things, including that select committee on the weaponization of the federal government, the FBI, the DOJ. And of course, we know Democrats were certainly not in favor of that. But do you think this is going to gain any traction? Are we ever going to get some information now that we have that slim little tiny majority in the House?
Well, I think it's certainly a start to create this committee. So the original Church Committee, which I think was formed in the 70s, they were the ones who uncovered the MK Ultra program, which is when the CIA was literally doing human experiments in mind control. And they found a bunch of other, terrible things that the deep state was up to back in the 60s and 70s. So I think this is definitely a good move. Jim Jordan is the perfect guy to lead this committee. People like Thomas Massey and people like Dan Bishop, absolute warriors against the intelligence against the corruption in the intelligence community are going to be on this committee. So I'm very hopeful that for what this committee can uncover, and, that there will actually be consequences for the people that have broken the law and rigged elections in this country. I think it's an absolutely great move.
I do
And
too.
another thing about it too is we would not have had it if these 20 Republicans did not hold up the House vote this week. This was part of the deal, the concessions that they forced out of Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah, you were obviously following this very closely, as I was, and I saw you the entire time. I mean, you remained steadfast as well. I was personally very annoyed by the whole thing, but I get it. And you know what? All is well that ends well, and I think it ended well. We still have McCarthy, but we have a long list of concessions. So at least it feels like we're getting to work, and the machine is working properly at this point. Another thing I want to talk about, speaking of Matt Gaetz and others, we've got those January 6th tapes, those 14,000 hours from January 6th. What do you think that they're going to uncover from those tapes, and do you think it'll make any difference?
Well, who knows? But of the tapes that have been released, we've obviously seen the ones of Capitol Police officers holding doors opening for protesters. There were some taking selfies with protesters. And the thing about this footage, the government is not only not releasing it, they are literally fighting to keep it hidden. They're fighting to keep it hidden. So what we're going to uncover, I don't know. But based on how hard that the feds are hiding to keep this footage from the American people, and based on the stuff that we've seen come out already that tears into the preferred establishment narrative of what happened on January 6th, who knows what we're going to find.
I just wonder if it's going to move the dial at all, because we've had so much information come out in the last 2 months even. I mean, the Twitter files, this new lawsuit with the attorney generals who have gotten this new information, the Facebook emails that I appreciate you flagged for me that my name was mentioned in those emails. But we're getting so much transparency, and we're getting so much proof of all these conspiracy theories that we've had for years, but it doesn't seem like the public at large cares. And this is what I ask every single one of my guests, because it's so frustrating for me. It's like you put it right in front of their face and you say, this is what's happening. Do you see the corruption? And they go, Donald Trump, he's a liar and a thief. And that really seems to be where we are.
Well, yeah, first of all, congrats on being on the government's censor list. I think that's the biggest badge of honor that any of us could ever get. So congrats on that. But you're right. Like, people just have, as I mentioned before, the NPC brain, where they will just not believe anything that is put in front of them. There's unfortunately a lot of people like that in America. But I think, the more and more that comes out, I think more and more people can be woken up to the fact that the government is corrupt, that the establishment of our country is corrupt and only in it to gain wealth for themselves. That, we have, that essentially everything we're told has been a lie. And, I think the fact that Elon Musk now controls a major social media platform like Twitter and gets all this stuff out there, I think there's a lot of room for, the more and more of the stuff that comes out, that the more people wake up to what's happening in our country.
I'd like to see someone behind bars. I'd like to see the White House own up to this. I'd like to see that Rob Flattery person. I would like to see, whatever his name is, I would like to see him called to the carpet and answering as to why he felt it necessary to reduce me and Tucker Carlson. And that there's a whole list of others that they work to reduce as well, which I love that term, by the way, reduce. We're going to reduce you. That's a very nice way of putting it.
And here's another thing to keep in mind about that too, which is that we're only seeing these specific emails and these specific files from one social media platform, Twitter. And, people kind of have this heightened impression of the impact of Twitter, because it's like it's kind of our digital public square in the 21st century. But the actual amount of Americans that use Twitter is only about 30%. Very few people actually use Twitter. And the majority of tweets actually come from a very limited number of users. Now think about, platforms like Google and a platform like Amazon, which Google about 70-80% of Americans use. And imagine if we had a Google Files, what we would uncover there about the amount of information that has simply been censored from the American people. The tough thing about being, on our side, being on the right, is that we have an uphill battle to climb when it comes to getting our points of view out, because they just get censored by these powerful companies.
They do, and you'd think the American people would just want the information, whether they agree with it or not, which brings me to my next point, which is #SuddenlyDied. To me, it seems very odd, because it seems like liberals, I know how much they loved the vaccine, I know how much they love their masks, but how many people have to suddenly die before liberals step back and say, I'm a liberal and I trust everything Democrats tell me, but boy, a lot of people are sure dropping dead, and this seems very odd. What is it going to take? How many more sudden deaths do we have to have before even Democrats, even diehard liberals start looking and saying, oh boy, this whole COVID thing, that's really concerning?
Well, the difference between a conspiracy theory and a fact is only a couple months to maybe a year. And I think eventually we're going to learn a lot of things about the vaccine and, about what, the side effects of it, what it's causing at the end of the day. This was a very rushed vaccine. But you weren't allowed to question that. You weren't allowed to question the short timetable that it took to produce it. You weren't allowed to question the fact that they wanted to mandate it for your children without, the difference between the COVID vaccine and every other vaccine your kid takes is that those vaccines were studied over years and even decades, whereas the COVID vaccine only came to us in a couple months. And yeah, we see these stories about all these like young, healthy people, like the offensive lineman from Air Force, who literally just dropped dead while walking to class. There was another story the other day about a high schooler who had a heart attack. These are all, really random events happen, like young, healthy people getting heart attacks, just dropping dead. It's not a normal thing. Now, obviously, we don't know like all the details yet about what's causing this, but they don't even want you to ask questions. It's like the same thing when Damar Hamlin collapsed on the field. We obviously still don't know what happened to him, but all these people came out immediately and said, no, it's not the vaccine. You can't talk about the vaccine. And I think eventually we saw the study from the Florida Surgeon General that it led to like an 80% increase of heart conditions in adults ages 18 to 39. Who knows what we're going to find out about this eventually and how much we were lied to.
Well, I want to throw another conspiracy theory your way. I don't think any of this was by accident. I don't think it was just they rushed this vaccine and they didn't quite know what the side effects would be. I feel like this was all by design. I feel like they wanted to get it out as soon as possible, whether knowing it was safe or effective or not. We already know that because they had to admit it. But I think now you've got these people who have these vaccine side effects who will be customers of Big Pharma likely for the rest of their lives because of some of the side effects that could be from this vaccine. So again, call me a conspiracy theorist, but I don't feel like any of this was just like, oh, shucks, we messed up. I feel like a lot of this was by design, part of the plan. And I think that they knew that it would come out eventually that there were side effects and that people would be more hesitant to take booster 7. I think they knew that was coming down. But at this point, even now you've got the military vaccine mandate. We've got that repealed. Okay, fantastic. But what about all the people that got it that now have side effects? What about them? That's where I don't know where we're going with all of this. What happens now?
Yeah, I mean, the people I think about the most are, children, like, high schoolers, middle schoolers, many of whom had to get vaccinated in order to simply go back to school or like participate in a field trip or play sports. I know my little sister graduated from Princeton last year and she was forced to get quad boosted in order to go back to school. They forced the whole school to do it. My alma mater did the same exact thing. And so I think about them. Like I think about how, obviously what we're going to find out like in the future about what's in these vaccines and what they're doing to people. And, people simply got them just because they didn't want to be ostracized socially for the most part, like people who are young. Like that's the people I think are hurt the most by this.
Yeah, it's all incredibly upsetting. And, if you don't have transparency, you don't have accountability, you don't even have acknowledgement, it's hard to get anywhere. But Greg, thank you.
Not only that, and you're not even allowed to question it. You can't, and in your case, the government will literally go to big tech and try to censor you.
Yeah, no, they will, and they get away with it. That's why you're right. I would like to see the Facebook files, the Google files, the YouTube files, so many files I would love to see. And then I would like to see them analyzed by Joy Behar. Oh, Greg, thank you so much for being here as always. I always enjoy looking at your tweets, and thank you for flagging that story about me and that email with my colleague Tucker Carlson. You were the first one that sent it my way, so I appreciate that as always, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Tommy. Always great to be on with you.